using free speech to free minds. It's the David Knight Show.
Welcome on this Wednesday, June the 26th, 2019. I'm David Knight, your host. All right, again, I'll remind you, we're going to be talking about Camp Constitution and how you can push back against the false information and the indoctrination that's being given to your kids. Not only lying to them about American history, as Beto O'Rourke says he intends to do. Of course, we know that. They've been doing that all along. But to find out what a constitutional America would actually look like. You know, a constitution if you can keep it. I don't know if we can even keep the country at the rate that things are going. But we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back, and we already know where they're headed with a lot of these things. And we already see, as we've talked about many times, we've got the drag queen story hours that are being done at many libraries. We just had a fundraising event at some Pennsylvania firehouses, but it's primarily the drag queen story hours of the various different locations. You know, there could be some alternatives, and I wanted you to hear one from Hal Shurtleff, and of course he runs Camp Constitution. He had a great idea, I thought, and that is to call your local library and to set up a Camp Constitution reading hour where you could cover history, you could cover the Constitution, you could have classes there, organized classes there, instead of the drag queen hour. I mean, do we have the energy to defend our values and our country and our government anymore? Or is it only the left that has any energy to engage young people? So joining us now is Hal Shurtleff, and he's going to talk to us about Camp Constitution in just a moment. But Hal, tell us a little bit about your idea for Camp Constitution reading hour at local libraries.
Well, Dave, I live in Boston, and Boston, there's several libraries just within maybe an hour, 2-hour ride from me. There's one in Fall River, Massachusetts, Conway, New Hampshire, and then down in Bristol, Rhode Island, that have already hosted, in Nashua, New Hampshire, that have hosted these drag queen hours. So I said, I'm going to get a hold of these librarians, and I'm going to offer something else. We call it Camp Constitution Reading Hour. And every month we could do something different. For example, in April, you know, the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere, the Concord Lexington. In July, of course, the Declaration of Independence and the sacrifices of the signers. November, Thanksgiving. December, Christmas. February, George Washington, or Great Patriots of the Revolutionary War. We also can do economics, like the classic I-pencil. I'm sure you're familiar with that. So I actually contacted 3 of the libraries, and 2 of the librarians got back to me relatively quickly, and both of them have agreed to allow us to come in. And we actually made a booking at the Fall River Library because it's not till November. So we're inviting 2 of our instructors, Reverend Stevie Kraft and his wife Edith. Edith was an elementary school teacher. She's retired, and they're going to be dressed up in the pilgrim outfits. We also have one of our...
Imagine that, instead of drag, right? They would dress up in historical outfits. That's a great idea.
That's right. And we have Pastor Garrett Lear, the Patriot pastor, who lives up in New Hampshire. And he's offered his services up in Conway, New Hampshire, in the White Mountains. And Garrett is about 6'7", and he wears the really authentic Black Robe Regiment outfits. And his wife also wears the era, period clothes. But you don't even have to do that. And you don't have to do it under our auspices. That'd be nice. But you can just contact your local library. Every town has a library. Cities have more than one. Contact a children's librarian. And, there's so many things you can read. And we're actually going to create a page with recommended readings. But there's just so much out there. Some great stuff that's geared towards elementary school age, junior high school age. We actually have a reprint of something called, it was called the American Family Series, where they're published in the early 70s, designed to be read at the dinner table when families used to sit at the dinner table. And there's great little essays and there's little questions and answers afterwards. And I think this is a way to push back the cultural Marxist. And again, we need to push back because these folks aren't going to stop.
That's right. If we abandon our children to the state, they're going to raise our children. And so we have to be proactive. And this thing, we can look at this and we say, isn't this, I don't like this. This doesn't look right. It looks like they're sexualizing young children. And they are. But what are we going to do to be proactive about this as parents? I mean, are we going to engage our kids in conversation? Are we going to give them our side of the story? Or are we just going to let strangers teach our children. So I think it's a great idea that you had. And, as you pointed out, you don't have to get in costume. You don't necessarily even have to come up with your own curriculum. You've got some resources there that have already thought out some of this, already have some ideas, and basically people could use those resources and not do make it a little bit easier for them to set this up.
You see, I'm looking at the download. We have some great resources just on our website. Not Yours to Give. That's that famous Davy Crockett story that you guys you in Texas have a little to do with. So there's a lot. There's just unlimited potential, and you could do it again under the auspices of your local group, the local Rotary Club, the local Garden Club, the local Tea Party group, or under our auspices. We would just want to make sure that we would make sure we know what you're reading. We can also read things like this Constitution, Imagine actually reading the Constitution. Idea. Yeah, and the beauty of this is that I would say that most of the children that use public libraries probably go to government schools, and they don't have access to some of this truthful history. So this might be one of the only times they get this information.
Yeah, that's a great idea. People can find that at Camp Constitution. Is it .com or .net?
It's a .net, yes. We also have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube channel. And someone suggested that we videotape some of these readings and make them available. And that's a good idea. We'll probably be doing that down the road.
I think that's a real good idea because, there's we still go to the library occasionally, and I don't see nearly as many people at the library in general. And so I think you're going to hit more people on YouTube or on social media. That's really where you're going to find the audience. So if you got that there and you put that up there on campconstitution.net, I think that's a resource that a lot of people could really use. But you've got something else that you have coming up. Tell us a little bit about the actual Camp Constitution that's coming up in July.
Well, we have a week-long family camp, and I want to stress a family camp. So we have whole families, grandparents, in-laws, toddlers, babies. We also have unaccompanied minors, so, from usually between 11 to 17. And we have some adults who want to come because they're learning a lot, too. So the camp is in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, in the western part of the state, the Berkshires. We tell people we're a 45-minute ride from Albany, so if you need to fly in, we'll pick you up, drop you off. Hartford, Connecticut's about an hour and a half. Boston is 2.5 hours. We may have some carpool potential because we have people coming from the Midwest and Pennsylvania and Florida, so we might be able to do that. So we also Amtrak stops off at Pittsfield twice a day. So we want to make sure that we can get you there. And we're a charitable trust. So we have made we've never turned away any worthy camper for lack of funds, even though our tuition is very, very modest. We charge $350 for 13 and over for the whole week, lodging, meals, field trips.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the speakers. I think you got Lord Monckton that's going to be coming there. Some others. Tell us who's going to be speaking there.
But Lord Monckton came last year, and he had such a good time. He asked to come back, and how can I say no to this fellow, and he had a great time.
He might parachute in if you did.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that'd be right. That'd be great. We could do that. Sure, that'd be fine. Yeah, we have a lake. We can retrieve him, a little rowboat. Professor Willie Sue, and of course, who's a regular on your show. Yeah. And this is Willie's third year. And, 1 year we offered him an honorarium, and he refused it. He brought his family, and he said, I'm having such a great time. There's no way I could accept anything here. We have Debbie Bacigalupi, who's been a guest on InfoWars, too. She's out of Northern California, and she's an expert on Agenda 21. And Agenda 21 is one of the topics that we really focus on. I've given over 600 presentations on the subject in the last 10 or 12 years. We have a gentleman. Yeah, we have a gentleman, Keith Hansen, who is he's a TV and radio personality from New Hampshire and Vermont. He's an Second Amendment expert. So we're going to have we have Mrs. Catherine White, who's a constitutional scholar and expert, teaching classes. Mr. John McManus, I think you might know John McManus. He's the president emeritus of the John Birch Society. He'll be giving a class on getting why we need to get out of the UN. And Lord Monckton is going to be giving one getting out of the European Union. So it's a good dovetail there.
Yeah. Of course, he's also, just like Dr. Soon, he's well-versed on environmentalism, which is the basis of Agenda 21, right. And they're rolling us into that pretty quickly. People are going to have to understand what's going on with 5G, what the smart cities are all about, because they don't call it UN Agenda 21 anymore. It's now the UN 2030 Agenda. It's a great opportunity for people to get educated, and folks, it is up to you to educate your children. Your children are the future, not only your future, but the future of the country. And you can't allow other people to have control of their mind and to be their only educators. Thank you so much, Hal Shurtleff. You can find information about that at campconstitution.net. Good luck, Hal. Welcome back. I was just talking to Hal Shurtleff about Camp Constitution, saying we're going to be proactive. We're going to educate our own children. We're going to even go to libraries and try to set up a Constitution reading hour instead of a drag queen reading hour. Yeah, they can have both of those at the libraries, but if they can have a drag queen story hour, you can do one for the Constitution. Get a group together, meet there.